All right, we're back with another Terrence Howard debunking. This guy's defending Terrence Howard's 1 times 1 equals 1 stuff, so let's watch.
And that there's probably too many stupid and angry people to actually have an intelligent conversation about 1 times 1 equaling 1.
I'm probably the stupid and angry Wish.com version of Neil deGrasse Tyson, so let's continue.
But I'm going to give it a shot anyway, and we're just going to try to ignore all the barnyard animals making grunts and neighs. By the way, Eric Weinstein, one of the most brilliant physicists on the planet right now.
He's not. Eric Weinstein doesn't even consider himself a physicist. Take a look at this. This is from Eric Weinstein's book himself, right? This right here, this right here is his book. Now, notice, if we move this up, notice that it says the author is not a physicist down here. He doesn't even consider himself a physicist. Now, what is true is that he did get a PhD in mathematical physics about 32 years ago. However, it turns out that, as far as I can tell, he hasn't published anything since then. He went to work in finance. Really, nobody considers himself a physicist in my field. Like, we don't even think about him at all. He's not like the most brilliant physicist alive. It's just not true. If you want to talk about the most brilliant physicist alive, look at Ed Witten. That guy and Roger Penrose, those people are brilliant. Eric Weinstein? No.
Confirmed that everything that Terrence Howard was saying about the periodic table and harmonics and frequency and atomic structure was all correct.
Let's see what else Eric Weinstein said about Terrence Howard's stuff. Let's play the video. Right, okay, so here's him on a podcast some point a while ago.
And its use as a political tool.
So
we cannot count on people saying, wait a minute, can we get an expert opinion? Does this claim about the square root of 2? I mean, I'm just going to say it very clearly. To claim that the square root of 2 is somehow distinguished because its cube is equal to 2 times the square root of 2 is simply to say that the square root of 2 is one of 3 roots of a cubic polynomial that factors as y minus the square root of 2 times y minus 0 times y plus the square root of 2. We have a failure to teach high school
this is
algebra
what I've been saying.
if this has gotten to this level and everyone thinks, oh, we need a podcast of all of you together to sort this out. No, we do not.
Right, so the point is that we absolutely do not need, experts to come in and debate Terrence Howard, even though, of course, I would just because it'd be fun. This is a misunderstanding of mathematics. This is not like, oh, we're reinventing mathematics. No, this is just people didn't learn mathematics properly when they were in grade school. All right, let's go back to the video.
I just want to make sure that part hits home for all of you. Because while half of the internet was making fun of Terrence Howard for being an idiot and acting like complete
Kinda
morons
is.
in the comments, he was actually correct about all
No,
the things
no,
they
he
said
wasn't.
was psychobabble.
So he's actually referring to another, I don't know, a video or something that Eric Weinstein was in where he was talking about Terrence Howard again. And he said Terrence Howard has an over-associative mind, which is probably true. And he was also saying that, there's not like the official periodic table, which is also true, but there is a most useful periodic table. And that's what people like me and others have been saying, that there is a most useful version of these things, and like the spiral periodic table, not so useful.
And not only did Eric Weinstein confirm that all the primary arguments that Terrence Howard was making were absolutely true and in line with quantum physics, he went on
Didn't.
to
Actually, in that video, and I don't have it pulled up, but you can go look for it. Just look up Terrence Howard, Eric Weinstein, or something. It's a 4-minute video. He doesn't actually mention anything about quantum physics.
say that Terrence Howard is talking about the physics that no one is talking about.
Okay, so this is true. That's what Eric Weinstein said. But basically, he's saying that when we teach physics to like high schoolers or undergraduates, there are things that we don't really talk about because it just confuses them. And this is exactly why. Terrence Howard is remarkably confused, probably because he read about some of these things that aren't normally taught at the high school or undergraduate level, because they're confusing and it just muddies the waters. So that's why Terrence Howard is going on about all of this stuff, because he's confused. That's why nobody talks about it, because, there's nothing to talk about to high school students or undergrads. Physicists talk about these kinds of things all the time, but that's amongst ourselves.
But it's absolutely true that the public are kept in the dark about.
And there's the conspiracy.
This isn't a I told you moment to all those people who were talking smack. I could care less. I know what they're up to. They're either angry, miserable people,
See? Angry,
or
miserable,
they
that's
know
me.
this stuff is true and they're trying to get you to doubt yourself and doubt true wisdom. This video is a look out for those types of people. video. This is a video for people that actually had an open mind about it, and maybe they were pressured to not talk about it or think about it because of all the fools around them that pretended to know what mathematics is, that pretended to know what quantum physics is.
This is probably referring to me, or if not explicitly me, then the kind of group that I find myself in. So let's look at what my knowledge on mathematics and physics is. Let's pull up my CV. Well, would you look at that? So I have a Bachelor's of Science in Physics, a Bachelor's of Science in Mathematics with a cumulative GPA of 4.0. I have a Master's of Science in Physics and a Doctor of Philosophy in Physics. So I can say with some degree of confidence that I do indeed know what quantum physics is. I do indeed know what mathematics is about.
There's a lot of fake experts out there
I
that
am
are trying
indeed
to
an expert.
control the narrative. I am so happy that Eric Weinstein came out and said what he said. Now, with all that being said, Eric was also critical of Terrence Howard for having an over-associative mind. Now, I think
Yeah?
that's a bit of an unfair criticism. I think
Are you kidding? The whole time he was just making associations between anything that has any sort of oscillation. In one of the old videos that I did on Terrence Howard, he basically makes the association that because waves all have frequencies, and light is a wave and sound is a wave, there must be some connection between those two. That there is an association of color and sound, but there's not. That's just an over-association.
better criticism would be, I think he's making too many associations with all that information and data.
He doesn't have data. He has, like, vibes, but he doesn't have data.
That's a fair criticism. To say he has an over-associative mind is a bit of a logic jump.
You mean like all of the logic jumps that Terrence Howard has?
I don't think Eric knows Terrence that well that he can make that assumption about him. Nor can we actually say that that is the truth because we have to test all these associations. Because Terrence Howard is taking a bunch of physics that is in the dark.
It's not in the dark. It's just in the dark to the lay public. We talk about these things all the time. Just go to a physics conference. We talk about wild stuff all the time.
Right, that not many people are talking about. And he's saying, let's test things this way. Let's try this out.
So the trouble is that if Terrence was proposing some experiments, that would be great. I would love to see the experiments that Terrence is allegedly proposing. And then we could actually test those if they're reasonable to test. The thing is Terrence Howard didn't actually do that. He didn't provide any predictions, any hypotheses that we can test, nothing like that. He just has vibes and shower thoughts.
So before we can make a criticism like he's making too many associations or he has an over-associative mind, we have to test to see if those associations are real. And what I
There's nothing to test.
mean by that is the associations he made between the periodic table, music, sound, frequency, and atomic structure.
Those associations are just conceptual associations. Like the point is that yes, we know that certain wavelengths of light have certain frequencies, and sound has certain frequencies, but there's nothing deeper there. He didn't make any predictions about what we should expect to find, what tests we can run. You can't just expect the scientist to do all the work for you. If you're going to claim to be a scientist and you're going to claim to be changing the world, you have to do the work.
And the flower of life. So just so you
Oh, also the flower of life stuff is complete nonsense. It's like made up. There's nothing to it, so don't worry about that.
all those people who were making fun of him, who were acting like they were so much smarter, were absolute fools.
That's not going to age well.
Look at all the comments. Look at all the people who made videos about Terrence Howard.
Hey, that's me.
And we're just talking smack about him, saying he was delusional, saying he's an actor, he's
He
just
is.
acting, saying
Probably
there's no
not.
way he could know these things. Whatever
doesn't.
nonsense came out of their mouth, understand that they were either completely stupid about what was going on or they were lying to you.
Or maybe you're wrong and Terrence Howard was wrong, and the experts, the people who have been studying this for almost 13 years now, know what they're talking about.
Okay, next. The 1 × 1 = 1 problem.
This will be good.
Now that people can see that Terrence Howard actually did his homework,
He didn't.
I want you to understand that what he's saying is not necessarily that 1 × 1 actually equals 2.
Are you sure? Because he did say that. Here, look at this. This is a tweet from Terrence Howard saying that he's proven that 1 × 1 = 2. And he even offers a proof. And people have actually gone through this so-called proof and, debunked it or whatever. Like, it's nonsense. The proof itself is completely, empty and makes no sense.
He's talking about a giant hole in the logic of how we use integers.
Look, so the way that we use integers is axiomatic. It's based on Peano arithmetic, or alternatively, if you want to go deeper, it's based on set theory. Um, and the point is that these things like multiplication and addition, division, subtraction, all of these things are defined axiomatically. And the implications of those axioms are things that like 2 squared is 4. Like that would be an implication. Um, Terrence Howard hasn't found any contradictions in any of this. He's just saying something that he thinks is wrong, namely that you shouldn't be able to cube a number and also get the same answer as doubling it. But he just doesn't understand that some numbers have that property as a result of some equations having certain solutions.
If you don't think 1 times 1 equaling 1 is weird, we'll try multiplying 0.4 by 0.4 and getting 0.16.
At least we know that you can do the multiplication table.
It's strange enough for something to not increase in value when you multiply it.
Multiply in mathematics doesn't mean to increase in value. It's just a mathematical operation that has certain rules.
It's even stranger when it decreases in value when you multiply it.
It's not. This happens whenever you multiply by a number that's between 0 and 1.
So how would we represent a fraction?
By the way, just as an aside, multiplying by a number between 0 and 1 is the same as dividing by the inverse of that number. So if you multiply a half by 0.5, that's the same as multiplying a half divided, or taking a half and dividing it by 2, so you would get a quarter. It's not so surprising. It's just multiplication and division are inverses.
Of an integer in our reality. Well, let's say 0.4. How would we physically produce an object that is a fraction of a whole?
Take a pizza and cut it into slices. That's typically what we mean. When we're talking about a fraction, we're talking about a fraction of a relative size. So you would have 1 whole pizza, and if you cut it in half, now you have 2 1/2 pizzas.
You see how all this stuff is becoming abstract? I mean, we can do something like, well, take 0.4 liters of water, right?
Sure.
That's a fraction of a liter,
Yep.
right? But the 0.4 that we have is a whole object.
Right, but it's 0.4 of a liter. That's what the liter is doing there.
But let's just use this for the sake of the argument. Now, if we multiply that 0.4 liter by another 0.4 liter,
Why would you do that? What is this multiplication corresponding to in the real world? Now, you could add those. You could certainly add those together. So you take 0.4 liters of water and add it to another 0.4 liters of water, and you get 0.8 liters of water. But what does 0.4 liters times 0.4 liters mean? Let's see.
we are not going to have 0.16 liter.
You're right. We would have 0.16 liters squared. So this is actually a common misunderstanding by the people who think that Terrence Howard's onto something. People don't understand that when you do multiplication with physical units like liters, centimeters, kilograms, whatever, the units themselves multiply too. So as an example, that's really easy to see. Let's say that you have a square that's half a meter on each side. So to find the area of the square, you take half a meter times half a meter. So that's 0.5 meters times 0.5 meters. So that gives you 0.25 meters squared. That tells you the area. Now, what does it mean that it's 0.25 meters squared? Well, it means that you can fit 4 of those half meter squares inside one square meter square. So if you have a square that's 1 meter by 1 meter, you can fit 4 half meter by half meter squares in it. And that makes perfect sense. You just fill it up in a grid. You just have 1, 2, 3, 4, right?
We're not going to have about a third of the original 1 before we multiplied it.
The thing is you can't just multiply things by themselves and expect to get meaningful answers in terms of the original thing. A liter and a liter squared don't have the same units, so they're not comparable.
The argument that Terrence is making is that the abstract nature of some of our mathematical principles do not work in the physical world once we start trying to use them.
They absolutely do. That's why we invented mathematics. We invented mathematics so that we can use them in a rigorous and concrete way.
But many scientists are under the delusion that mathematical principles, like the multiplication of integers and the dimensionality of space, are real things also, which...
So this is a philosophical argument. I don't actually know a lot of physicists that are mathematical Platonists, meaning that they think that like numbers exist out there in the universe. I don't think so. I think that numbers are things that we invented. Mathematical operations are things that we invented. But the point is that the mathematics that we use is the mathematics that works. Get over yourself.
They're not. And this is why science and mathematics is on pause. This is
Oh, it is? I should tell my colleagues that they should pack up their things.
why science and mathematics have not been able to make good on the promises they made about technology.
So this coming from somebody who's using a smartphone that has transistors in it that are the size of nanometers? Like, really, is science and mathematics aren't making good on their promises of technology? Like, what about nearly unbreakable cryptography? Or what about artificial intelligence? Or, what about the internet? That came from CERN.
About the advancement of our understanding of the universe.
So just, I think it was 5 years ago, we discovered we imaged for the first time a supermassive black hole. Like, we have an image of it now. We just took a picture. And a few years before that, we detected gravitational waves for the first time. And a few years before that, we discovered the Higgs boson, which provides mass for all of the other fundamental particles. Scientific understanding of the world around us isn't slowing down, it's accelerating. We're getting better and better at physics. It's just the low-hanging fruit is gone. So the physics that we do discover, the things about the natural world that we do discover, are harder to find. And so they tend to be more expensive, they tend to require more collaboration.
Why they're still stuck on string theory, which is never going to work because
Tell me that you don't know what string theory is without telling me you don't know what string theory is. First of all, string theory is still widely regarded as like the most likely answer to quantum gravity or a theory of everything. That's why there's a lot of people working on it. Now, there are clearly some issues. There are issues with predictability, issues with can we ever test this? These are serious issues that people are looking at. You can look into like the string landscape and the swampland and things like that. But people are actively working on this. No one really considers it dead, except people like Sabine Hossenfelder, who is arguably profiting off of the cynicism, and people who are generally outside of the field.
they're still treating dimensions as if they're more than mathematical measurement points.
Look, so I know that this guy doesn't know what dimensions are, but dimensions are just a way of characterizing how many different directions you can go in. That's all. Like, physicists know this, mathematicians know this, we all know this.
And before people get butthurt about me using the word stupid,
No one's
I don't
butthurt.
use it very
Don't
often.
worry.
But here's when I use it. When someone doesn't know something, but they think they do,
This sounds.
and they are forceful in their ignorance,
This is very
and they're
ironic.
mean about it, and they pick on other people for having different opinions when they have no idea what they're talking about.
Really?
Right?
Is that what you call stupid?
It's violent.
Really?
That's stupidity. So when I say stupid, I mean it, and I never take it back.
So, clearly you don't recognize the irony in that statement. I understand that. Fine. But it is very funny to me.
Because it's one thing to not know something. That's completely normal. There's tons of things I don't know.
I
If
know.
you humbly ask questions to try to clarify things, and you get other people's opinions, and you keep an open mind, then you're a decent person.
Agreed.
You're not a stupid one. Even if you believe something that is not true.
Agreed.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe you got a lot of bad information,
Being ignorant
or maybe
is
you
okay.
just haven't finished the calculations on something, and it seems like it feels right, like
Feels right. That sounds a lot like what Terrence Howard was doing.
it's the right thing to believe in. But when you make your ignorance other people's problem, it becomes stupidity.
Yeah, it does. You should take this video down because you've done that.
When you start shaming, ridiculing, and censoring people simply because they have
Shaming, ridiculing, you haven't done censoring, but shaming and ridiculing, you've called people stupid and liars. Right? Aren't you doing that?
questions about the official story,
Oh, it's only when you question the official story that you're stupid. It can't be at all that if you, believe conspiracy theories that you can be stupid. Okay.
then you have become the problem. I understand.
So, that was an interesting video. I don't know why he made that video, but I think that he didn't really make any good points. I don't know how to end videos. Bye. Go listen to the theme song. It's pretty cool.